Okay, so this is what I'm talking about, the parasympathetic nervous system. It is called the recovery core. So it does not mean that it is the absence of performance. So whatever that we discussed, the decision friction, the compressed sleep, the erosion of presence, they have got a structural solution. They had a structural problem and that has got a structural solution. It is not a practice, it's not a habit, it's a neurological state that your brain is capable of. So we'll discuss the details in a while. So whatever that is, it has been that whatever that has gone wrong because of the sympathetic nervous system. So when we follow the system, then it is going to force your system, the neurology, to parasympathetic nervous system, and we'll do that through the system, so through a different kind of a method, right? So it is simply that it has not been accessed consistently in years. The sympathetic nervous system has been high since a long time, and the parasympathetic nervous system has not been accessed for a while. So it means that it has been, in the store. So when you don't access something, it loses its relevance. And this is the condition where the highest performance is achieved. The Bhagavad Gita has named this particular neuroscience way back in 5,000 years, and that is how the neuroscience has been totally mapped currently in the precise in the present neuroscience is able to understand what has been already mapped 5,000 years back, right? So let us understand what does it do to the prefrontal cortex. So when the recovery core goes online, it talks to the every organ through the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is something that starts from the brain all the way to the basically it reaches to every organ, and it has the longest nerve, and it's coming from the brainstem to until the gut basically. It conducts coherent signals to all the bodily organs. The sympathetic nervous system does the opposite. It contracts all the organs. I mean, basically, they put the sympathetic nervous system puts the body into the fight or flight mode, whereas the parasympathetic nervous system releases that the threat is gone. Now you are back to normalcy. So this is not a relaxation session. Relaxation is basically a state of where somebody can consider it is an absence of tension, absence of stress. No, this is not that kind of a state. So the prefrontal cortex comes back fully online, and that's where we talk about the parasympathetic nervous system. The It causes the coherence to be active, right? And this is a kind of intelligence which is wider, slower, at the same time deeper. Slower does not mean its speed is less. Slower means it can go to a lot of depth, right? So executives in this state, it does not mean that they don't think less. It doesn't mean that they think with less speed. Rather, they think accurately. Now, because they think from a different altitude. So we can understand through this example is that uh, the decision clarity comes because the system is restored to the parasympathetic nervous system, and because of which the prefrontal cortex becomes gets online. The pattern recognition expands. The patterns that were existing in the sympathetic nervous system, they were less in number. They were contracting the muscles. They were putting into a high beta state of high energy. Now here in this situation, in this particular parasympathetic nervous system, when it goes online, then we begin to see options that otherwise other people could not see, right? That is why it is called having a image from the higher altitude. You can see two mazes. One maze, this person is confused because the person is able to see which is only visible. Okay, But the right one, if you can see, the person is able to see from a higher altitude. So when you see from a higher altitude, you can right away, cross through the maze. You can right away get to the solution, right? So this is what happens when higher altitude, when a person reaches higher altitude. So decisions that previously required multiple meetings, now it can be done in single observation or single conversation. Not because the person is working harder, rather you are working on a different cognitive level, on a higher cognitive level, and the solution becomes obvious. The solution that was not visible when the sympathetic nervous system was online, the solutions were now visible. So, in other terms, also, it is said that when you're so the sympathetic nervous system is a state of lower self. It's always on a panic mode. It's always on a uh, high energy, low thinking, low cognitive level of the situation of the brain state. So higher cognitive level is achieved, and the person is able to look at the solution. You are able to look at the leader is able to look at the solution from a higher altitude. The sleep architecture is restored. So I mean, a lot of things gets resolved in this state, in the parasympathetic nervous system when it goes online. So with the recovery core active, so the recovery core, I call it the same thing, right? So it's called the recovery core because when the parasympathetic nervous system goes online, it's called the recovery core because the brainstem is able to now provide signals to all the bodily parts that the threat is gone. Now you are in the creative zone. Now the intelligence functions in a much better way. With that, the deep sleep comes into picture. That means one is able to enter into deep sleep. So the brain's glymphatic system activates fully, and it clears the toxic metabolic waste. And this thing does not happen when your sympathetic nervous system is active. So with the sympathetic nervous system going down, with the parasympathetic nervous system coming up, with the recovery core stabilized, the body gets into deep sleep mode, and the metabolic waste are the toxins, they are able to be removed from our body. The leaders, those who are in this state, they can restore their sleep architecture, and their cognitive ceiling rises in 30 days. I'm not saying their energy increases. No, the ceiling increases. You understand what I'm saying, right? Right now, with the sympathetic nervous system, if the ceiling hits here, with the parasympathetic nervous system, the ceiling hits here. That means the ceiling actually increases. That means you have got more capability to operate in the zone. Your zone increases, the operating zone increases. That's why the people operating under the recovery core online, even though they have got a huge amount of stress. Last time I mentioned about, in the last video I mentioned about a person getting into high stress. A person is able to handle high stress, but still they are in the you know uh, combat zone, right? But here in this state, the person is removed from the combat zone. There is no combat situation now, right? Here, the parasympathetic nervous system, the recovery core, when it goes online, the same amount of stress one is able to handle with more calm without getting stressed, without the stress affecting the intelligence, without the stress being affecting the bodily organs. The stress levels do not change. I mean, stress is an external factor, right? But that stress is not creating a stress within our cognitive system, within our neurological area. So when the ceiling increases, when the ceiling of cognitive operative modality increases, what happens? So not only the person is able to handle more stress, the person does not get stressed in the stress zone. right? That's the outcome of this method. Again, a person in the combat mode transmits the same neural frequency to the people those who are adjacent to him or her. So when the person is in when the recovery core is active, when the parasympathetic nervous system is online, then the same frequency is being transmitted to the people around you, right? So presence is not a social skill. I mean, you can be physically present, but you can be, neurologically absent. So the neurological state the nervous system has brought in, because of that, because of the PNS coming into picture with the recovery core online, you are able to transmit the right kind of frequency where the bonding happens, the emotional connection happens, and your children, your partner, everybody can feel your presence. They can now transmit love, they can exchange love and emotions, the creativity goes high, right? So this is not a leadership quality. I mean, this is the leadership quality that no MBA teaches. If you are able to understand, neuroscience is something quite deep, and neurons uh, can be dealt with in a specific way, right? So the the system that I'm talking about, the neuroacoustic protocol, so we'll talk about that in a while. This particular protocol is able to restore you know uh, the parasympathetic nervous system into its original state. So it's not that it was disturbed, it was suppressed. Now it is being restored. So you can very easily understand the people around you, and you can communicate to the people around you even without talking a word. I mean, even without saying a word, you can communicate with them emotionally. I mean, all that thing. So basically, I mean, emotions can also be transferred without with the body language, but then this I'm talking about the positive emotions. So with this, the clarity comes in. Okay, the legacy thinking activation happens, and the a lot of clarity that comes in here, and this also brings in a long-term vision. Your legacy thinking. That legacy thinking means what I'm building now is going to become a legacy in a while. Okay, so this becomes the long-term vision. I will build something that will outlast me. That's the kind of building, that's the kind of cognitive presence that brings in. So how this happens, this comes with the neural coherence, and the combat engine, which was actually blocking your PNS, right, is coming back online, right? So when the recovery core is consistently online, a different order of question becomes accessible. Now, what kind of question? The questions that are real to your own self, deeper meaning of life. One will start thinking about, I mean, one will not get disturbed with the small amount of stress, or big amount of stress, but then one will get questions of different level, because the cognitive level is very high. The signal to noise ratio has gone quite down, I mean, almost invisible. So the questions like not what I must solve today, but what I am actually building and for whom. This is a question which gets a long term vision. So just think about it. I mean, it's not that you get trivial problems every single day and you keep solving them. That's one part that you have to do anyways. But when you are actually asking this question, that what am I actually building and for whom, that's a very long vision. That's a very long vision, and that's only possible with a creative thinking. It's not possible with a problem solving mind. It's not possible in the SNS zone, which is always the combat zone. So combat zone cannot think long term. Combat zone is like, it'll appear, it'll solve the problem and go out. But as of now, the combat zone has been active for a long time. So finally, let us see what state you are in. I'll invite you to take this diagnostic. So far, whatever that we have discussed in the previous section, that is the sympathetic nervous system video, that was the previous video, you might have checked. And if you have not checked, then please uh, take, click the link below. There are multiple links in which it is saying that the video that is corresponding to the sympathetic nervous system or the combat zone, you can watch that video. And the combat engine, the recovery core, and the four costs that we discussed, and the four restorations that we discussed. The four costs we discussed in the previous video, and the four restorations that we discussed in the present one. This is the map. Okay. So again, the map is not a territory. The map is there to tell you there is a starting point and there is a destination point. Map in itself is of no use if you are not able to identify the beginning point and where the point of restoration that we are supposed to reach. So I am inviting you to take the neural dissonance assessment. The link of that will be in the description of this video. This tool is designed to identify specifically your nervous system, where your nervous system is locked up. Okay. So which failure mode is dominant, and what the protocol entry point looks like for your specific profile. You will be able to diagnose all that once you take this assessment. It'll take about maybe 10 minutes or so. There is no cost involved for that, and it will return a map. It will tell you where do you stand right now in your neurological operating state. Where do you stand in your neurological operating state? And this is going to help you build the framework or enter into the framework that I'm talking about. So if you have watched these two videos and it had made sense, so I invite you to take the neural dissonance assessment. At the same time, whatever that I spoke in the to both the videos, if you could resonate, that means you are able to understand what is happening, but then you could not articulate what was the actual problem that you are facing. Now that you are clear about many things, the neural dissonance assessment will make you further clear. It will give you more clarity about your present state. So your next step is that take the diagnostic. So the link is in the description. Take the neural dissonance assessment, and I will you will get the response from my side after you take the assessment. So I hope you understood and liked the video. So please like and share with the people, those who are actually facing this kind of problems, those who are in the high beta zone, those who are in highly stressed. They're not able to understand the how the neuroscience is actually, how the neurons are actually affecting their consciousness and their daily productivity. This is going to help everybody in that zone a lot. So yeah, so you can take the neural dissonance assessment and forward it to those who are in need of this. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you up in the neural dissonance assessment section. See you. Bye bye.